Hey everyone, Chris Carter here from the Locked On Steelers podcast. We've got Nick Farabaugh on from PennLive.com. I want to talk to Nick about what Omar Khan told us during rookie camp when we talked to him about the George Pickens trade and what the Steelers' plan is at wide receiver moving forward. Also, did George Pickens say something controversial on Instagram after the trade, or was that a ploy? We'll talk about that and our insights from rookie camp, all here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things in the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find the show on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of your daily Monday through Friday episodes as well as our bonus content. We thank you for making us your first listen every day because we're your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. More on them later. As I said before, we're joined by the man himself, Nick Farabaugh. He's back from PennLive.com. He covers the Steelers for them. We were at rookie camp. We'll get to rookie camp and Derrick Harmon, Caleb Johnston, Will Howard, and Y.A. Black and all those guys. But I want to talk to you guys about Omar Khan because he surprised us on Friday of rookie camp by coming out and talking to us in the media, gave us some on-the-record commentary about the George Pickens trade, and I thought some of his responses were interesting, Nick, and we're going to get into it in a second here, but your overall thoughts about how Omar Khan has handled this kind of before and after the trade.
Well, I mean, I think fairly similarly, a lot of smoke screening, huh? Like that's what it feels like to me. I mean, listen, they were all offseason. We're doing this to pair George and DK. We're doing this to pair George and DK. Mike, I remember even at the owners' meetings, Alan Saunders asked him about the similarities in skill sets, and Mike said, "Oh, they're not too similar. They're different players." And then they obviously end up trading him. And so I thought there was a lot of smoke screening before. I think after, I think he revealed, reading between the lines, why this happened. Right? I mean, we talked about it. And could you trust George Pickens to be your wide receiver one and pay him $25+ million per year? And I think the Steelers came away with that, talking with him, talking with David Mulligetta, his agent, and they came away saying, no, it would be better off. Everybody got a fresh start. George, you get another chance to, to prove you can be trusted upon. And the next year you can hit the free agency market, get a big time contract. And for us, we get a day 2 draft pick to get even more capital next year for when we need to go up and get a quarterback. So there were two things to that. And so I think, that's there. And then I think the other thing, the comment is, I know everyone talked about, well, he's super confident in the wide receiver room. And that's what he said. He's comfortable. They wouldn't have made that move again. They said they were not going to trade George Pickens. They said they had full faith in Kenny Pickett. You remember that? And then last year, they said the same thing. And sure, they never added somebody before the season, but they courted Brandon Ayuk all summer trying to trade for him. And they ended up trading for Mike Williams at the deadline. So clearly they wanted to add somebody. I imagine they're going to search the market for that too. So that's just kind of my summation there.
So y'all don't believe us. Here's Omar Khan and some of the responses he had to those types of questions from Friday.
Around this time, but I figured I'd answer some questions. The trade sort of happened quickly. We had some people inquire during the draft. Nothing that really made sense, and Cowboys reached out. I don't really remember what day it was, but earlier this week, and they gave us they proposed something that for us to think about, and we had conversations internally. I also had some conversations with George's agent Dave, who I have a good relationship with, and we discussed where things I guess have been with George, where they are, and where things could go with George, and this trade makes sense for everyone. But here we are, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Did he want to leave?
He never asked. If you're asking, I was never asked to. I was never told that he wanted to leave. No.
How does this impact this team this year? How do you feel about the depth of receiver?
We wouldn't have done this if we didn't feel good about this receiver situation, about our depth here. I know people make the comparison about last year. It's not even close to being the same.
What's the difference?
Well, obviously we made the investment with DK. We've had another year with some of the young guys and gotten to know them, watch them develop. We had a Robert Woods. Like I said, we've had Roman's healthy. I've seen him the last couple of weeks out here and how he's doing, and we saw how he was progressing at the end of last year. Obviously, he didn't get the chance to to get on the field, but there was some excitement there. But we have a good group. There's some guys that are back, and we've seen their growth and have another year under our belt with them, and feel good about it.
Does the track record that you guys have had of recent trading away of receivers that you guys have drafted, does that impact any vision for how you guys want to assemble your talent or the type of players you want to bring into your organization and moving forward?
No, I mean, some of that's just really coincidence how it's played out with the position. I mean, we're always trying to get good players regardless of what position it's at and at any point in the year. So, I think there's some coincidence to that. But we want to get good players, good people, and, we're chasing a championship. And every decision we make is based on trying to win a championship, not only, in the future, but this year. I mean, we're focused on trying to win a championship this year. And, I know there's a lot of questions about different things, but there's a lot of time between now and the start of the season. And but rest assured, we're trying to win a championship this year.
So a few different things there I want to address. One, I'm with you, Nick. You play in my face if you acting like, oh yeah, we think Roman Wilson's fine and good enough. They will end up, if they end up striking out and getting any extra talent. But as he's just saying there at the end, he's absolutely they're looking to assemble as best a roster as they can. They also right now, I believe, have around $31 million in cap space. You assume over 10 is going to go to Aaron, but that's still a lot of cap space to hang out to have left over. I could see them making a trade, signing a guy. There's plenty of guys still available. We've talked about Amari Cooper, Gabe Davis, who was the other one I was thinking? Keenan Allen. We talked about those guys, and then you could get in the trade market. Who knows? What could happen there. But clearly, Omar Khan, we've seen it. Like you said, they've been doing the smoke screen. They tell you one thing, but this is how you're supposed to operate. This is not a complaint on my end. As a GM and as a head coach, they're supposed to keep us guessing so that they can keep other teams guessing. Because sometimes they will tell you the truth, and you're sitting there saying, "Oh, that's a smoke screen." No, that was the truth. So that's where us as insiders have to read the tea leaves and try to give our insights into how they play it. Now, I do buy his answer to my question at the end there, where he talked about we're not going to change up how we assemble talent. We're going to go after the best players that we can. I do think it's going to be important to them until they get a new leadership structure that's firmly intact for the offense to find those guys before they find the guys that could be the malcontents but really talented players again. But I do think they are still going to be looking to just get the best overall players that they can on their roster.
Yeah, I mean, I think to a degree they are. I do think we've seen a shift, though, in the last two drafts, talking about building that leadership kind of.
I think they're trying to, yeah.
Lot of captains, a lot of winning pedigrees there, experienced college players. So we've seen that shift a little bit. So that's interesting. Just to note, it's a trend. But I think you're completely correct. They're going to go out and sign or trade for somebody. I mean, the trade market right now, it's not super lush. I mean, I think, we throw out some names there. You can throw out the Green Bay Packers guys, maybe someone from the Texans. But we'll see. I actually think the potential for this addition to happen might actually be during the cut down period. Remember last year, the Broncos cut Tim Patrick. The Lions got him. He ended up being a real meaningful piece for them. Same thing with the Commanders and Noah Brown. Could someone come free from one of those really loaded wide receiver rooms? I think that's where actually this might happen if they don't go after a wide receiver in free agency. But that's just kind of something to look at. I do think, though, wide receiver, I think they are going to look at different skill sets from what DK Metcalf brings. That's one thing I do kind of think they're going to look at. I don't think it necessarily means they're going to look at a route runner type necessarily, but I think maybe somebody that gets a little more into that route running archetype tier. So Amari Cooper would make a lot of sense there.
Right.
Allen ditto. Less to me. Maybe they would go after him, but less to me, Gabe Davis.
Right.
I think Gabe Davis is a deep threat that could be a blocking guy. But I feel like they kind of signed their Z power slot in Robert Woods. Like that, I think Robert Woods is the Van Jefferson replacement, right? That he's kind of the direct one-of-one there. I think they need something they didn't have last year, which was this route runner outside receiver, and Calvin Austin can kind of fill in the blanks there as kind of slot outside deep threat. He does a little bit of everything there. But that's kind of my view of what I think they're going to add across from DK as they look for their next wide receiver.
Real quick, because we do have to head to break shortly. if Roman Wilson, if they really believe in Roman Wilson and he does work out, what is his role in this team?
I mean, I think it's going to be the slot horizontal field stretcher. I always have loved his explosiveness, his speed. He's physical. Like, he's not big, but he's physical. He's tough. He's got great hands, and he blocks. So there's a lot to like about Roman Wilson. I just think it's hard to fully buy into him when he's just a wild card, right? That's what he is. He's a wild card. If he works out, great. If he doesn't, though, you want to make sure you have something there so your wide receiver room is not worse for wear.
Absolutely. When we come back, I want to talk about the wide receiver the Steelers traded away. George Pickens posted or didn't post on Instagram some things. We want to talk about that, but also kind of the fallout that always surrounds the kind of talk, because there were some allegations made about the Steelers. And so we'll get into what exactly those were next here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter, Nick Farabaugh, stick with us. We'll be right back. But first, I want to remind you, the show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place, so you stop just managing your money and actually start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast, Chris Carter, Nick Farabaugh. Nick, let's get to the things that I think a lot of Steelers Twitter was talking about really on late Saturday, all throughout Sunday, because that's kind of when all this went down. So first, there was a thing. There was supposedly a post by George Pickens. I didn't see it. They said, oh, he took it down really fast. But this was the post that was alleged to be on his account. It said, quote, "They the cheapest organization," meaning the Steelers, "ain't no stacking year after year. They gone let those N-words go too soon as it's goes soon as it's time. LMAO." So that happened, right? And so like that was a post that was put out there. It was a screenshot. I never saw the actual comment. Supposedly it was under a Peyton Wilson thread of some sort. But then Sunday, George Pickens is on a flight. He posts to his Instagram something to the effect of talking to kind of addressing it, saying, "Literally on a plane, no service, just landed and seen straight lives from Pitt fans. Stop with the AI trying to make a story. I'm happy for everything the Steel City did for me. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Hashtag or GP, all that stuff." So, you know, that one came from his account, and that was confirmed, like that was on his story and everything. So that at least we know was posted. Now, Nick, you never know with athletes, man. Sometimes they'll say, "Oh, I was hacked," or "Oh, that was someone using AI." I mean, like, listen, we've seen plenty of people post fake things, like where they'll use I mean, it's very easy to Photoshop comments and things like that. People do it all the time for jokes and things. So we can't for sure know. But like, I don't know, man. The whole stacking players thing, like that didn't read, or that stacking years thing, or stacking whatever he was saying there. I felt like I didn't feel like George Pickens talking there. Also, talking about the cheapest organization, paying players is not where the Steelers are cheap. It's paying for their facilities and being as competitive there and paying for new things that other teams do. But they pay their players as long as they want to keep them. To me, that this seemed kind of weird at first, and then when he posted on IG, it was kind of like, even if it was real, and now he's taking it back, I just feel like it's one of those. Just be like, man, I think people overblowing this by a lot.
First thing, it's PIT, not PITT. That's the college.
Right. That's the college.
That's the one thing I'll say. Second, man, like I don't really care. Yeah. This is the one thing I'm going to say. This guy is a Dallas Cowboy now. The Pittsburgh Steelers have other things to do. But here's the thing. I mean, if you want to talk about cheapest organization stuff, could it have been George? Sure. It could have also been somebody maybe that runs George's account. I believe that he has said in the past, when we were talking about Instagram things that he has people running his account for him. So it's possible that it was someone in his circle that's running his account. It could have been a fake thing, could have been whatever. But it doesn't sound like, what George would say to me. And the thing is, man, they are I think they were 30th in cash flow last year, and they're 26th this year.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. When people say they're the lowest paid offense in football, or one of them, they're not anymore because of DK. My answer to that is always, who should they have paid? They have not drafted well on the offensive side of the football recently. That's a big reason why they don't pay offensive players. And you just don't see a lot of premium offensive talent hit the open market for obvious reasons. So they just haven't paid them. I mean, DK Metcalf got paid 5 years, $150 million this offseason by them. So they'll pay them. If you want to criticize them for being cheaper than other teams, you're right. It's the facilities. It's the coaching staff, not getting a more expansive coaching staff, adding those senior assistants, et cetera, et cetera. So I think things like that is where you would look at that. But this, to me, I could not care less. That is my commentary on this, Chris. George Pickens is in Dallas. Let George Pickens do what George Pickens needs to do. The Steelers, meanwhile, have to worry about filling a hole at wide receiver that they just created. That's what I'm saying.
And again, I think that when you look at the whole, I thought it was interesting because what it started was Steelers fans arguing, he meant that they won't pay players and they don't play players, and the people are like, no, they're not paying. It's not that they're not paying players; they're paying for facilities. It's like, to your point, when they have the players, they pay them. And again, supposedly this post was under a Peyton Wilson post. So if the idea was they don't pay anybody, that's clearly false because they're paying TJ Watt a lot of money. They're probably about to pay him even more of a lot of money because of the contract he's about to get. They pay Cam Hayward a lot of money, Minka Fitzpatrick a lot of money. And back when they had Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, Marquise Pouncey, Le'Veon Bell, David DeCastro, name an offensive superstar from that era, they got paid. They did what they want. And it was the guys who they couldn't see a long-term plan with, Martavis Bryant, who always got in trouble. Heck, they paid Deontay Johnson before he was like he wasn't even a superstar. They were just they loved his upside as a route runner. They paid him. They would have paid Juju had he not suffered that knee injury. It's clear the Steelers want to pay their players to keep around that they want to keep around. And I think part of what it was, and it goes back to, the whole reason for moving on from George Pickens, I think part of it was they didn't see a future with him, from him being late to games, from, not going as hard in practice and all the things that we heard about over the past 3 years. I think that's where this comes from, not the, not necessarily any accusations about, we just can't afford George. This isn't like the Pirates. And I think that's what a lot of Pittsburgh fans get sucked into is they think that the Steelers are the Pirates. One, the Steelers have never been as bad as the Pirates. The Pirates have had literally, in the terribleness of their organization, in their worst 15 seasons, about 4 of them have happened in the last 5 years. So like, as bad as you think the Pirates have had in the last 5 years, they have been worse than any other era before. So like, and meanwhile, the Steelers, as people was like, no playoff wins. They've made the playoffs 4 times in the last 5 years. They made the playoffs more times in the last 5 years than the Pirates have made since I was 3 years old. So like, not in the same comparison there. But on top of that, Bob Nunny doesn't pay players, and there's not a salary cap in baseball. And there's all these allegations like they have the lowest payroll. The Steelers off almost every year, spend to the cap. The only times they don't is when they save that little like $8 to $10 million at the end of the year as the emergency fund for it. Hey, if player X gets hurt and we need money to move things around, we'll keep those guys. But that is it. Spending on players is not an issue. Now, if you want to talk about upgrading facilities and things like that, by all means, have at it. But it is not about putting talent on the field of an issue for the Steelers.
Yeah, look at how many defensive players they're paying right now. Cam Hayward, okay, paying him. Alex Highsmith, they're paying him. They're paying Minka Fitzpatrick. They're going to pay TJ Watt potentially $40 million per season. Okay. They're paying him that. They just paid Darius Slay a fully guaranteed $10 million contract. That's a risky deal for a 34-year-old, 35-year-old corner. So, I mean, they're spending money on that. So they do spend money. It's quite clear they spend money across the board, to be quite honest with you. It's allocated to the defensive side of the football right now. So I don't think paying players is ever an issue. I mean, the biggest way they could have increased their cap hit or their cash spending on offense, hey, they could have paid Dan Moore $21 million per year to be their left tackle. I don't think you would want to do that.
No.
So they could have, but they didn't. And so I just think, they got to get the right players in on offense to start paying them. And they will, clearly, because they just dished out the 4th highest paying contract to a wide receiver in DK Metcalf. And listen, if George had shown he can be trusted upon, George would have that duffel bag in his house right now. So it's that simple. Just got to find the right players on offense. Would you want to pay more offensive players? Yes, but you got to actually find the offensive players first, because a lot of premium offensive players just do not hit the open market.
I'm right with you. That is 100% the truth there. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk to Nick about rookie camp and the things that we got to see from talking to and getting to see a closer up view. Hey, it was the first time we've talked to Derrick Harmon in person. So we'll get our thoughts on that next on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter, Nick Farabaugh, stick with us. We'll be right back. Back here in the Locked On Steelers podcast, Chris Carter, Nick Farabaugh. Nick, let's talk about the rookie camp, because that was the thing that we did cover this weekend with all the other things that we could say people got into. Now, it was our first chance talking to Derrick Harmon in person. Of course, his mother passed away, shortly after he was drafted, and he didn't get to travel to Pittsburgh as it's customary for first round picks to do and be in front of media. He could talk on the phone that the night he was drafted. But I thought it was interesting, him talking about like, hey, I'm still working, of course I'm still working through the passing of my mother, but football is a great way to, it has been something I could focus on and be there. And I thought it was interesting, he taught, we got to watch the filmable period of, of drills and such. And you saw him and Y.A. Black getting paired up a lot as they were hitting the sled with Carl Dunbar on it, and they were just moving it. You see Carl Dunbar going like, whoa. Okay, you guys doing a lot. Like you could see the strength that was naturally in both of those guys, and that's what they wanted to get there. And then you heard Derrick Harmon talking about hitting the ground running, the importance of setting the tone, the importance of being physical. What was your reaction to just your first time seeing those guys? Granted, in football in shorts, not in a whole lot, but just seeing them up close for the first time.
When I saw Y.A. Black, I said, that is a large man. And I'll tell you what, this guy has sledgehammers for hands.
Yes,
when he hit the pads, it had a little bit more jolt than even Derrick Harmon's did. He's just got strong hands. The other thing when I saw Derrick Harmon was, you knew that natural strength was there. You see it on tape. It's real. Again, a big guy. And he doesn't have a lot of I think another thing that I thought, when I saw him on tape was there's not a lot of bad weight on his frame. He's very cut, right? That's the thing. And you could see that in person too. Man, these guys are really high character players as well. We talked to both them this week. Y.A. Black is already extremely media trained because someone asked him, are you playing nose tackle? And he said, I don't know yet. I think he's going
to play where they tell me to play.
I think he's going to end up playing nose. But we'll see. Pad level is going to be a big thing for him. I thought that was one other thing you could see them working on, Chris, was trying to keep his pad level down. So that was something specific to him. But a lot of hand usage stuff. They got strong hands. They're built like absolute mammoths up front. And so that's a big thing. They wanted size. They wanted strength. They wanted run defense. Those are traits, obviously, to fit into that. So for those two guys, that was really, really big. And when we talked to Derrick Harmon, I just saw a guy that is not yet a leader, but I see a guy that can be a leader in the future. And I think that's a big thing for, when you're drafting Cam Hayward's mentee, that is going to be a big thing. He's not only going to learn what Cam does on the field, he's going to try and take over and become that leader.
No, I agree. And it's part of what you said earlier too. Like the Steelers are definitely going to address your talent, but they do want leaders. And I think that's a big part of what they're doing now before they can bring in more guys, kind of like George Pickens or Chase Claypool, guys that are Chase Claypool not as much because he didn't have a reputation for being a wild head in college, but like guys who you look at and you say, man, their talent's really good. There's questions about their character or their personality, but we will override those because of the talent. I do agree that right now they're reassembling a leadership core moving forward. And we talked about that last week with Jenna Harner on the Friday episode. So I'm right with you there. And I do every time I talk to Derrick Harmon, I get that sense. And I also get that sense in a refreshing way, because I don't know you, Nick, whenever I hear Derrick Harmon talk, he's not BSing me. He's not trying to feed me a line. Like when we heard Russell Wilson talk, how many times he would go, hey, we love the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Pittsburgh just has the best fans. And he would get into certain things. We're like, okay, Russ, we get it. But like sometimes that's what leaders do, right? Derrick Harmon's not he's not stretching out his words to try to fit he's not the student that's trying to write an 800-word essay and trying to stretch out his words as much as he can to try to impress the teacher. He is just saying, "Yep, that's what we're doing. Yep, we're here to be physical. That's what I'm looking to do," and just keeping it simple. And I think that's refreshing. And as he grows, he will then he'll be able to expand upon things, kind of like how Cam Hayward has for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
And I love the basis they're giving him to have Cam there, because I remember when Cam was young, he learned so much from Brett Kiesel. That was a big thing in Cam's early career. He learned so much from Brett Kiesel and James Harrison and those guys. And that's exactly what Cam's going to be able to kind of pass down to Keanu Benton already, and then to Cam Hayward. Not to Cam Hayward, Derrick Harmon, sorry.
I got you.
So that's exactly kind of where things are going there, man. And I think that's really big when you're talking about leadership on the defensive side of the football. The Steelers kind of are working a leadership core in, right? Even they bring in Darius Slay. Okay, Joey's going to have now a mentor there. And so I think that's just really important for this team to get veterans in there and then young players to learn from those veterans. And I think Harmon's going to be one of those guys.
I think so too. We also got a chance to talk to Caleb Johnson. I thought he handled things well. I also feel like he's impressive in front of the microphone. He handles things very well. I got to ask him a little bit about running behind his blockers and being patient. And he talked about having to reestablish, connections and relationships, because that's something that he had naturally at Iowa, because a lot of those guys were homegrown. Those guys are stuck with the program. They had belief in Iowa. Now you're going to deal with professionals coming from all walks of life in all different areas, and he's going to have to reestablish that. And I'll get more into this in tomorrow's episode, because I didn't want to clip this up and put all the clips that we got from the weekend into this, but I did get a sense that this guy understands what he's going to have to do if he wants to be the top back at Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I feel like the question, when he was asked, what are you working on? What's the biggest thing you're working on? A lot of people say, I'm working on everything. I'm just trying to get better. And right. I get the answer, but it's a cliche answer. Him straight up saying pass protection, because he knows that's his path to the field, and offering details of that, because he didn't do it a ton at Iowa. It was a very run-centric offense. He didn't play too much out of the gun. There's just going to be a lot more there for him. I think that shows a lot of maturity. That shows a lot of insight. I thought Caleb Johnson. I was impressed by Derrick Harmon. To be quite honest with you, Chris, I was most impressed by Caleb Johnson this week. I just really think he's got a great head on his shoulders. I think when you saw him, I remember watching on Saturday, they were doing the pass pro circuit, Chris.
Right.
And he was stopping the drills to ask Eddie Faulkner in-depth questions about technique and pass pro, asking, what do I do with my hands here, the angles here, different things that are just really in-depth little details. That shows me he's a detail-oriented player. Mm-hmm. I actually think that is a lot of what the Steelers have been lacking in recent drafts. I don't feel like they've drafted a lot of detail-oriented, obsessive players. Good organizations have those players. I feel like Harmon, I feel like Johnson, I feel certainly this from Jack Sawyer, too. Jack Sawyer talked a lot about it. He was impressive, too. But I thought they were just really in-depth, detail-oriented guys from their interviews. So I really came away impressed with Caleb Johnson as well.
I was as well. I know some people were saying, okay, but Will Howard. And I'm like, look, guys, they don't really throw in rookie camp, so we don't get to see a whole lot there. I thought Will Howard also handled himself on the microphone pretty well, as he normally does. But I think it was a good thing. I think we did see good things from a lot of from the Steelers rookie class. We got to talk to some of the undrafted guys as well. Any undrafted guys that kind of stuck out to you when you talked to them?
First team all violence, DJ Thomas.
Yeah,
Jones.
That's my boy.
He's cool, man. Very clearly understands the offense and the role he's going to have. So fullback, tight end hybrid, fun one to watch. I'll tell you what, I talked to Sebastian Castro one-on-one this week. Was really impressive about him. He just kind of understands his limitations. Like he listened to me, he listened and said, listen, I might not be the greatest athlete in this world, but I sure have a chip on my shoulder, and I'm more hard-nosed than most of these guys. And so he understands how he's going to make the field as a safety slot guy. He was impressive. I also thought Rock Taylor kind of understanding the opportunity he has now in front of him. George Pickens is traded. Rock Taylor's an ex-receiver that makes contested grabs. The door is wide open for Rock Taylor, and he knows what he's got to have to do. So, and then after Saturday's practice, he was off to the side with a tryout Hollis Mathis working with him for 20 to 25 minutes afterwards, just giving him insight, which showcases a lot of things about that guy. So just those three I thought that stuck out to me as UDFAs, but I wanted to highlight them.
Absolutely. And again, DJ Thomas Jones, the guy you brought up there, the first team all violence. If you missed my interview with him on the North Shore Drive podcast last Friday, he was he kind of revealed like kind of his story as an athlete. When he was at Ole Miss, he was a 4-star recruit, so a highly recruited guy. Had several D1 colleges going after him, but he transferred out of Ole Miss after his second season because his mother was sick and he went home to take care of her. And COVID was happening at the time, and it put her at risk. And he went home, helped take care of her. He's helped her get a lot better, and he still found a way to get noticed by NFL scouts. And now he's with the Steelers trying to earn a roster spot. He'll be headed to training camp as an undrafted free agent. Good for him. If you want to read more about that, go check out that article in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, post-gazette.com, where I talked to him and his mother and kind of fleshed out just the many challenges they face and the triumph that they've earned throughout all that. So awesome stuff there. But hey, there's going to be a lot more from these undrafted free agents as we get to OTAs at the end of the month, and we'll have a lot more for you here on the Locked On Steelers podcast as we move forward. Nick, thanks so much for joining us here. Let people that can find you, follow you, and get more of your work.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Farabaugh Blue Sky Nick Farabaugh. Make sure to read the stuff over at PennLive.com and check out the podcast Steelers Blitz on PennLive.
Absolutely. He's Nick Farabaugh. I'm Chris Carter. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, all the social media, same handle everywhere at Carter Critiques. You can read my work in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, post-gazette.com. You can find me here on the Locked On Steelers podcast every day, Monday through Friday, on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Back tomorrow with more on your Pittsburgh Steelers right here on the Locked On Steelers podcast.